Minneapolis, but there have been protests across this country.
Listen up.
Let's give you a flavor of what some of it has looked like. In Houston, more than 200 people were arrested. Reports of looting in buildings with broken glass. A woman was allegedly asked to leave the protest after taking out a rifle. A group of 60 to 70 people shut down a Highway 59, for about half an hour. In New York, the 88th precinct, where Barclays Center is in Brooklyn, protesters tossed rocks, bottles, and eggs at police. They emptied they set an empty NYPD van on fire. Almost 100 people were arrested in New York. Los Angeles at 7 p.m. their time last night. Highway 101 in both directions was shut down, and LAPD declared all of downtown LA an unlawful assembly, essentially shutting it down. In San Jose, windows were smashed and Highway 101 was blocked by protesters there, some attacking cars. In Washington, D.C., the Secret Service ordered the White House locked down for about an hour while about 2,000 protesters were outside the gates. The crowd then marched to the Trump International Hotel, chanting "No justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter, and I can't breathe," which was the term that George Floyd used on Monday night before he died. Kansas City had 150 to 200 protesters at Country Club Plaza, largely peaceful, but there were people with guns there. Atlanta was not largely peaceful. A police car was set on fire, cars were vandalized, officers were struck with projectiles, restaurants was broken into, CNN's headquarters was broken into and vandalized. Cincinnati had hundreds of protesters closing traffic down on Interstate 75 for 45 minutes. Oakland had thousands of protesters. They were spray painting buildings to stop traffic. There was some tear gas there. A colleague, Jake Ward, got involved in that. In Seattle, there was a night of rioting and clashes with police. In St. Louis, Interstate 44 was shut down from 11:30 p.m. till 3 a.m. this morning. In Louisville, there was a photojournalist who had been hit by pepper bullets. Dallas had protests. Chicago had about 200 people marching. So did Portland, Oregon. So that's not the complete list of what's going on. In the meantime, Yasmin, the president is tweeting this morning, mostly about the stuff in Washington, saying that if the protesters had gotten involved, they would have met with some, I'm just looking up the tweet, but something about some very angry dogs. Most vicious dogs is what he said.
Because, yeah, and we have the tweet up on the screen now. He says, have been greeted with the most vicious dogs, the most ominous weapons I've ever seen. That's when people would have been really badly hurt, at least. Many Secret Service agents just waiting for action, but we put the young ones on the front line, sir. They love it. And he goes on, Ali, but you think about yesterday, right? The president announcing he's going to be having a press conference, people anticipating, yes, he will likely be talking about the pandemic that we have been dealing with in this country for the last 3 months, but also thinking, okay, it's likely the president will address the nation, right? As we are in the middle of this major reaction across the country, across so many states, as you beautifully laid out. In this country, people are hurting, black, white, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, people are hurting across this country, flooding into the streets. It could have been a layup for the president to unite people in this country. And he didn't do it. He did not take that opportunity to unite people in this country, to talk about the systemic racism that has faced African Americans in this country for so long, for so many years, for centuries, to talk about police brutality in this country. In fact, he completely avoided it and just talked about the fact that we are going to be cutting off our relationship, this country cutting off the relationship with the World Health Organization while we are in the middle of a pandemic. And yet this country totally divided, totally in pain right now, as we are seeing on our screens and seeing in our news feeds this morning, Ali.
This is what happens when you don't do the right thing and you do the wrong thing. This is what happens. This is what happens whenever you put a deafened ear to the messenger that was giving out the message, but yet didn't nobody want to support the messenger because they had done already classified the messenger towards the messenger either being bogus or the messenger being crazy, messed up in the mind, or the messenger being the devil himself. This is what you get after 30 plus years of a so-called peace, an imaginary, phony, fake peace that the church world obviously wanted. This is what you're getting now. You're getting what you wanted. You're getting exactly what you wanted. And you have no one to blame but yourselves, because I have yet to see anybody supporting true biblical Bible peace that it talks about in the Bible. Not a man-made peace, but a godly peace. I have yet to get supporters to knocking on my door and calling me on my phone saying, Juby, we're with you, man. We're with the Windmill Ministries, man. So because of it, it has escalated to this degree. And yes, we have a president that don't know how to bring people together in unifying in a time of a crisis. Now we basically have a pandemic on top of a pandemic because of the letdown of the government. Between the racial discrimination, between the spiritual anti-Semitism discrimination, between people being phony and fake in the relationship with God, being lukewarm, this is where we stand now as a society of the leader of the free world. Now, how do you think the rest of the world is looking upon us right now, today, after going through basically 48 hours, maybe 72 hours of relinquish hate and open violent protest? What do you think now that China and Russia and all these other communist controlled countries, what do you think they're thinking about us now, today? I'm going to tell you what they're thinking. They're laughing, and they're probably saying up underneath their breath, good riddance. They had it coming. And in reality, they really did. Because of this fake, phony system that we know has let the people down. Whenever you're $25 trillion in debt, over 2.3 incarcerated prisoners in jail, no hope in sight towards how we're going to deal with this. But yet now the rich man, the powerful man, keeps talking about how that he's going to throw the tax burden back up onto the working class. Been kicking the can down the road all this time pertaining to illegal immigrants and NAFTA and free trade versus open trade, and now it's come to this. And now we got a president that basically don't know what to do other than to lash out and call people names and use gestures that really help to bring forth violence versus taking away violence. I have never seen it like it is right now. So sad. Once more, this is what America gets whenever it wants to play games with God and God's people. Play games with, in reality, towards what's been going on. This is what you get whenever you play games.
Yes, but it is a painful. These are painful days in America and painful nights being out there in these protests. There are a lot of people who are angry. I just got tweets from somebody to say, make sure you make clear that I'm a white American from Florida and I'm angry about this. This isn't just African Americans angry. This is about injustice. I want to bring in Derek Johnson. He's the president and CEO of the NAACP. He's joining us from Jackson, Mississippi. Derek, thank you for being with us. One of the things I've seen you tweeting is that we are done dying. Hashtag we are done dying. And I guess I ask you, when you see protests like this and you see what's happened this week and you see what happened with Ahmaud Arbery and you see what happened with Breonna Taylor, what does it help to say we are done dying? Because it seems to me that African Americans are not done dying.
But you know, our hashtag is We're Not Dying was created as a result of the ongoing police violence, the reality that this pandemic has disproportionately impacted African Americans, the growing inequity gap as we see it. In December of 2019, the NAACP, we issued a report about the inequities of the Twin Cities. And in that report, we said because African Americans was 11 times more likely to be incarcerated. Their income was 2.5 times, the unemployment rate was 2.5 times greater than whites in that area. And there was a multiple things that we talked about, that this area was a powder cake to explode at any given time. That was in December of 2019. And here we are today to really look at the inequities of this nation. You know, it's interesting, out of the 30 cities what we see in protests last night, the protest in D.C. really exemplifies what's taking place. They went to the White House, then they marched to Trump Tower. They understand that the inequities are policy-based. The level of racial violence is germinating from the White House. And in 30 years since Rodney King's, nothing much has changed. It has been the same reality. We go through this.
It's just like a dog returning back to its vomit. We return back to the same old grind, and the reason why is because the rich man is the man that has contaminated the system to begin with, and it's the rich man that will tell us a bunch of lies, blow smoke up people's rear ends, and promise us this and promise us that, and we'll accept it like a bunch of dummies, and the next thing you know, a few years later, we'll be back to the drawing board again like we are right now. When is America going to wake up to these atrocities that have been happening now to America for now over 30 plus years? In all the lies, in all the deceit. When is America going to wake up in understanding that these type of atrocities are being manifested by the rich man, the powerful man, and the person that is now presently in charge? Just like here in Weakley County, when you have a sheriff that has been nominated 9 different terms, 9 times, been in office something like 27 years, and you got judges, Nancy Pelosi, senators, congressmen, that are old school thinking people to begin with. They have no idea what actually needs to be done in the 21st century in the year 2020. But they've been sitting on their behinds all this time, acting like that they have cared about we the people, and the whole time they have been letting us down. When is America going to say enough is enough in regards to this? Is it going to take a civil war? Is that where we're heading towards? Is an actual civil war here in America before people are finally going to say, okay, what are we going to do different? Once more, this phony, fake peace that society has created. I didn't create this towards the ministry. I was trying to get point in sincerity of how God had called me into the ministry, and that we had to do certain things to maintain ourselves and to maintain the blessings coming from God. And if not, this was what we was going to be catastrophically heading into. But you watch. People that I live around right here will blame the Windmill Ministries or the founder of the Windmill Ministries for this, because it's easier to blame someone else than blaming yourself. The accountability issues in this country is going to have to stop. And there's no doubt, I'm not perfect. I can't walk on water yet. But I have put forth 30 plus years of my life in trying to distribute a message coming from the Bible that people has either sniggered at, laughed at, or they have already done compartmentalized me as me being a lunatic, or me being a scam artist, or me being this, or me being that, and the whole time I've not asked them for 1 red cent. And I haven't gotten 1 red cent. In the meantime, you got all these scam artists that's running around. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. If you'll send me $10, I'll send you a prayer cloth and God will abundantly bless you and you'll be living in Cadillac. You'll be living in nice homes and driving a nice Cadillac and God will abundantly bless you. We'll allow and support people like that. But whenever it comes time for the real deal, oh, I'm a Jim Jones. Oh, this guy, he's another McVeigh. Oh, this guy, he's another David Koresh. I have listened to the bullshit, and I do mean bullshit, that has come from this society long enough to the point that now it's exploding in their very own faces. And the only thing that I can say is that they had it coming. America had it coming because of their illegitimate, deformed, perverted, greedy, selfish, unhealthy ways. Once more, the doomsday clock, as far as I'm concerned, just moved another peg towards doomsday, not only in America, but throughout the world. Whenever you have a society that will not pay attention after somebody dedicates over 30 years of their life, after somebody has been punched at, poked at, made fun of, and has sacrificed over 30 years of their life, and you still don't have supporters, you still don't have people that believe in your sincerity, then as far as I am concerned, the rest of them can all go to hell, because that's where they're going to be going anyway. Now, eventually, there will be a remnant that will come out of these ashes. And I keep saying that again and again and again, and people will snigger and making fun of me. Ashes, ashes, what's going to happen with ashes? Trust me, God can bring forth 1,000 different ways to burn this thing down to the ground. From meteor displacement to solar flares, to allowing for a nuclear bomb to blow up. There's thousands of ways that God can bring ashes to what has happened here. And now it's happening. Now God's allowing it. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. Because you would not take heed to the messenger because you didn't like his message. Well, they didn't like Noah's message neither. They didn't like Moses' message neither. And they for darn sure didn't like Jesus Christ's message. So as far as I am concerned, the politicians and the preachers are to blame because of where we are right now, 30 plus years later, in seeing this escalate and evolve. And it's only going to get worse before it gets better. People is pissed off. They're mad. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their income. They've lost their insurance. This pandemic disease has just brought it to the forefront. It's like a cherry on top in understanding how badly that society has truly been screwed by the rich man, by the one percenters. I was in a movement in 2012 out in California pertaining to the one percenters against the 99 percenters. And that movement never took off. And the reason why it never took off is because the power struggle of the one percenters versus the 99 percenters. Well, now the power, the table is changing. It's evolving. And we're going to see how much more power that the one percenters has towards lying and manipulating the 99 percenters. Because I feel like out of this, there may be a chance that there will be a remnant that will come out of these ashes. People wanting to know what the ashes was. Well, wake up. because now the ashes is happening. And what you're seeing right now pertaining to the George Floyd protesting is probably only 0.1% of what actually occurred last night in regards to major uprising. It's not over. It's far from being over. And I really don't think that our president wants it to be over. I really think our president wants it to turn into a total martial law like it was during the Civil War, during Lincoln's era. And if that be the case, if that's what the big guys want, then they'll probably get what they want. They'll probably get it. There's going to be bloodshed over this. I don't know how severe bloodshed, but there'll be bloodshed over this. Because once more, people are hurt. They're let down. They feel like that the system has let them down. People are being incarcerated illegitimately. They're being punished, and they shouldn't be punished. I never should have gotten punished for standing up for the teachings of the Bible. But I sure have. Either here in Tennessee or Kentucky or out in Oklahoma. And they call that justice? They call that fairness? No. What I call that is vigilante law. Good luck to all of us. Good luck to each and every one of us.
Consider the book that said earlier, we go through this cycle. People.
Good luck to all of us as we see this evolving and escalating into what it's evolving and escalating into. It's the very thing that me and Mr. Burns talked about, that we was afraid it was going to happen 3 days ago, that now's happening. The very thing.